Part 1. The Thing in the Walls. They say every house keeps a memory. Mine kept something else. I was 22 when I moved into the old duplex on Morgan Street, a cheap rental, the kind of place landlords describe as full of character instead of rotting quietly. The first night, as I dragged in my boxes, I heard it. A slow, deliberate scratching inside the walls. At first, I blamed rats, but rats don't whisper. Around 2:47 a.m., I woke to the sound of breathing right beside me. The room was empty, but the wall next to my bed seemed warm. I pressed my ear against it. A voice, low, shaking, murmured, "Don't move." I jerked away. The drywall thumped, as if something on the other side had thrown its weight forward. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Over the next days, I heard it constantly. Footsteps pacing behind the plaster, fingernails scraping, occasional laughter that didn't sound fully human. I told myself it was pipes. Old houses do weird things. But then I found the crawl space door in the hallway. One I swear wasn't there before. A latch hung open, dusty, like it hadn't been touched in decades. When I opened it, cold air crawled over my skin. A narrow passage stretched into darkness. I aimed my flashlight inside. The beam landed on something that froze me in place. A section of wall with deep gouges, as if someone trapped inside had clawed to get out. And written above the scratches, in what looked horribly like dried blood, "I am still here."
Part 2. What was left behind. I called the landlord the next morning. He sighed, as if he expected the call. "You're hearing things, kid," he said. "Everyone does it first." "At first," I demanded. "What happened here?" He hung up. That evening, the lights flickered. The house felt smaller, like it was breathing with me. At 3 a.m., I woke again, this time to the unmistakable sound of someone crawling through the inside of the drywall, moving from the kitchen toward the bedroom. My phone flashlight barely cut the dark as I stepped into the hall. The crawlspace door was open. Inside, the air smelled like soil and old iron. My flashlight failed, just died. But the corridor wasn't fully dark. A faint red glow pulsed from deeper in the passage. I crawled forward, knees shaking, until I reached the far end, where the wall had collapsed inward, revealing a hidden chamber. In the center sat a small wooden chair. Shackles hung from its arms. A chain lay broken on the floor. Then I heard it, right behind me. A voice, hoarse and furious. "They left me here." I turned. A shape, pale and wrong, unfolded from the shadows of the wall cavity. Its limbs were too thin, its eyes sunken like empty wells. It crawled toward me with the broken chain dragging behind it, metal scraping stone. I scrambled backward, slammed the crawlspace door shut, and fled the house barefoot into the street. When the police arrived, they found nothing. No chamber, no scratches, no shackles. They said the crawlspace was sealed with screws that looked decades old. But every night since I moved out, I wake at exactly 2:47 a.m. because something, somewhere in the walls of whatever building I sleep in now, scratches. And every night, it gets a little bit closer.
Part 3. The Follower. I tried to outrun it. New apartment, new city, new locks.
But evil doesn't respect geography. For a while, things were quiet. Too quiet. I convinced myself it was trauma, nothing more. The scratches I heard at night were just the old radiator. The whispering was only wind sneaking through cracked windows. Then the boxes arrived. 3 of them. No return address. The delivery man insisted I signed for them. My signature was there, shaky but mine. I hadn't touched a pen that day. I opened the first box. Inside, a piece of drywall, cracked and yellowed, with deep claw marks. The second box contained a length of rusted chain, identical to the one I saw dragging behind the pale thing in the wall chamber. The third box held nothing, or so I thought. When I tilted it, a folded slip of paper slid out. 4 words, written in the same dried dark smear as before. You moved. I followed. That night, exactly at 2:47 a.m., I woke to the sound of something heavy shifting inside the vents. The metal rattled, then bent outward slightly, as if someone was pushing from the inside. I should have run, but some instinct kept me frozen. Maybe I needed to know the truth. The vent grill fell onto the floor with a metallic clang. A hand, thin, gray, joints bending wrong, reached out. Then another. The creature dragged itself free, its body long and twisted like it had been growing inside the walls too long. Up close, its face was worse than I remembered. Hollow eyes, jaw unhinged too wide, teeth like broken nails. It stood, or tried to. Its bones cracked like brittle wood as it straightened. Then it spoke, voice scraping like metal dragged across stone. You heard me. Now you carry me. It pointed one trembling finger at my chest. My vision blurred. I felt a pressure beneath my ribs, like something shifting inside me that didn't belong. I stumbled backward, suffocating on cold air. The creature crawled back into the vent, melting into the dark like smoke. The next morning the boxes were gone. The vent looked untouched. But I felt different. Wrong. Like there was a second heartbeat inside my ribs. Soft at first, then stronger each night. And last night, when I leaned close to my own bedroom wall, I heard scratching. Not from outside, but from inside. Part 4. The Second Heartbeat. By the end of the week, the second heartbeat wasn't subtle anymore. It pulsed beneath my skin, slow, deliberate, like a fist knocking from the inside. I avoided mirrors. Every time I caught my reflection, my chest seemed to move a fraction of a second off from the rest of me, like something inside was breathing out of sync. Sleep became impossible. Every night at 2:47 a.m., the scratching in the walls would respond to the pulsing in my ribs, as if the thing in me and the thing in the walls were talking. I started hearing words. Faint at first, like distant whispers. Then clearer. Let me out. I pressed a hand to my chest. The heartbeat accelerated, thudding so hard it hurt. Let me out. I collapsed to the floor, gasping. My fingers burned as if frostbitten. The pressure inside me sharpened like claws scraping along my ribs. I crawled to the bathroom, desperate for some kind of proof I wasn't losing my mind. I lifted my shirt, turned on the harsh overhead light, and watched the skin over my sternum bulge outward as though a face pressed from behind it. I screamed. The bulge vanished instantly, like it flattened itself, hiding. I stumbled back, knocking over the towel rack. On the mirror, fogged from my shuddering breaths, words began to appear. Slow strokes forming letters from the inside out. I am almost here. The lights flickered. The scratching in the walls turned frantic. And then, silence. A silence so deep, so unnatural, it made my ears ring. I stepped into the hallway, heart pounding twice for every beat. My apartment door creaked open on its own. Outside the corridor was dark, except for a faint red glow seeping from the other end. I followed it, because something inside me pulled me toward it, like a leash tightening around my ribs. The glow led to the basement door. It was ajar. Against my will, I descended the stairs. The basement was empty, just cement, dust, and that red glow gathering in the far corner. As I approached, shapes began to form in the light. Hands. Not one pair, dozens, all stretching from the walls, fingertips tapping along the concrete in perfect rhythm with the second heartbeat in my chest. Tap, tap, tap. Inside me. Tap, tap, tap. In the walls. The wall in front of me began to crack. Dust fell. Something pushed from the other side, something crawling upward, expanding, swelling like the wall itself was pregnant with it. And then I understood. The creature in the walls wasn't following me. It was preparing me. The wall split open, crumbling outward. A hollow eye stared through the gap, huge, endless, hungry. My chest burned, the second heartbeat now a violent pounding. And then I heard it, a whisper from inside my body. The door is you. The creature's arm burst from the wall, reaching toward me. My ribs cracked outward as something inside me tried to answer. The last thing I remember before the lights died completely was my own voice screaming, only it didn't sound like me anymore. Part 5. The Door Opens. When the lights died, the darkness felt alive. Thick, breathing, waiting. I lay on the basement floor, ribs cracked, hands shaking uncontrollably. My chest pulsed in jagged rhythms, not like a heartbeat anymore. More like knocking from the inside. I tried to stand, but my legs buckled. The pressure behind my ribs pushed outward again, stretching skin, reshaping bone. I clawed at my chest, desperate to hold myself together. Across the room, the creature's arm, long, gray, too many joints, reached through the hole in the wall. Its fingers spread, trembling, like it could smell me. Like it knew I was finally ready. Then, from everywhere at once, the whispers returned. Open, open, open. The hands sprouting from the walls slapped in unison, a deafening fleshy applause. My vision blurred, the second heartbeat suddenly synced with mine, beating faster and faster until it felt like my entire body was vibrating. I stumbled backward, but the thing in the wall followed, dragging its enormous head through the crack. Bits of plaster rained down. Its empty eye socket fixed on me. No pupil, just depth, like staring into a tunnel that had no end. I felt the thing inside me rise. Not figuratively, literally. Something beneath my skin slid upward, pushing against my throat. I gagged, my jaw shuddered, trying to open wider than it could. The creature's voice seeped through the room, echoing from inside the walls, inside my skull, inside my bones. You were the vessel. Now be the doorway. My chest split, not open, not bleeding, but moving, like shifting plates.
A cracking sound filled the basement, sharp enough to make my vision flash white. The enormous creature in the wall reached toward me and suddenly froze. Everything went silent. Not quiet. Silent. The second heartbeat stopped. For a moment, I felt weightless, hollow, like everything inside me had evaporated. Then something spoke from behind me, a voice I had never heard before. Calm, cold, ancient. Enough. The creature recoiled, hissing like wet stone dragged across metal. Its arms snapped backward, retreating into the darkness of the wall. The red glow vanished. The hands along the concrete sank away like they were dissolving. The wall sealed itself with a sound like bone knitting shut. And I collapsed, gasping, clutching my chest, which was now still. One heartbeat. Just one. But the silence was wrong, because the voice, the one that saved me, did not leave. It settled in my mind like a weight, speaking softly. You are no longer his. You are mine. I tried to scream, but no sound came out, because when I opened my mouth, something whispered back. Don't worry. We haven't even begun.
Part 6. The One Who Speaks. For 3 days after the basement, I didn't leave my apartment. Not because I was afraid of what was outside, but because I was terrified of what was inside. The new voice didn't whisper like the thing in the walls. It didn't scratch or crawl or scream. It simply spoke. Clear, calm, certain. You were chosen. Every time it said it, a cold wave pulsed through the back of my skull, like someone pressing an icy thumb into my brain. I refused to answer it, but silence only seemed to encourage it. Do not fear him, it said on the second night. The wall creature was only the first. The first? I didn't want to know what that meant. I didn't want any of this. But on the third night, exactly at 2:47 a.m., I realized it wasn't a choice. My apartment walls began to vibrate, not with scratching, but with something deeper, a low hum like chanting from far below the floorboards. The lights flickered. My breath fogged the air. Shadows stretched unnaturally long along the walls, bending into shapes that didn't belong to anything in the room. The voice in my mind said, "He tries to return, but you are no longer the doorway." The hum in the walls grew louder, turning into a violent, shuddering rumble. The drywall cracked. The air rippled. The wall creature was forcing its way back. And the calm voice in my head spoke again, urgently, for the first time. Stand up. I felt my legs move, not from my will, but from its command. Look. I turned, against my own control, toward the cracking wall. A massive fissure tore down the center, glowing red. Something pressed against the inside, trying to burst through. The thing from the basement, now larger, angrier, desperate. Then the voice inside me whispered, "Say my name." My throat seized. My jaw locked open like someone was prying it wider. I don't know your name," I rasped. The voice answered, "You have always known it." The fissure widened. A gray arm reached through, fingers stretching toward me. Its claws brushed the air inches from my chest. The calm voice darkened. If he enters your world fully, it will not stop with you. The wall creature roared, a sound like metal screaming underwater. My body trembled. Something heavy pressed against my diaphragm, rising like a tide. My lungs burned. "Speak my name," the voice repeated, "and I will sever him." I tried. My mouth opened, but every time I attempted to form a sound, the wall creature's roar drowned it out. The red crack split wider, spilling light across the room. Then suddenly, I remembered. Not a memory of something I had learned, but something I had always known, but had never understood. A name, a sound, ancient, wrong, heavy as stone. My lips moved. My voice, or the voice inside me, spoke. RKNL. The moment the name left my mouth, the room convulsed. A violent shockwave exploded outward, slamming the walls flat like they had never been cracked at all. The creature's arm dissolved into ash mid-air, its roar cutting off like a severed wire. Silence. Then the voice inside me, now stronger, sharper, spoke one final message. Good. You are learning. And in the reflection of the dark window beside me, for just a split second, I saw eyes staring back. But they weren't mine.
Final part. The Last Door. The night after I spoke Arcanol's name, the world felt thinner, like reality had lost tension. Like if I pressed a little too hard on the air, it would tear. Arcanol didn't hide in my thoughts anymore. He sat there, present, alert, like someone standing just behind me, breathing down my spine. For the first time, he spoke without echo, without force. Tonight, it ends. I felt the temperature drop. Every shadow in the room twisted toward the doorway. The walls groaned, not from something inside them, but from the structure itself, resisting something colossal. A roar erupted outside. Not the wall creature's roar, something deeper, hungrier. Arcanol's voice tightened. He comes to claim you. He believes you still belong to him. The lights shattered one by one, glass tinkling like brittle ice. The hallway dissolved into darkness. Then, boom. Something massive slammed into my front door. The wood splintered. A second hit. The door cracked down the center. My chest seized. The old heartbeat, the second heartbeat, returned. Thundering, answering the thing outside. Arcanol whispered, "He is trying to reopen you." I dropped to my knees, clutching my ribs as the bulge rose again, pushing outward. My skin stretched, like something inside was trying to peel me open. The door exploded inward. The wall creature stepped through, but it was no longer bound to walls, no longer half-formed. It was fully free, tall enough to scrape the ceiling, hollow-eyed, skin stretched over a body that seemed grown in darkness. Dozens of arms, some human, some not, hung from its torso like discarded memories. Its voice shook the building. "You are mine." My ribs cracked outward. A line of blood traced my sternum. Arcanol spoke,
calm even as my body fractured. Stand. I stood. Face him. I turned. The creature charged forward, arms unfurling like tendrils. Arcanal's presence surged in my mind. Speak it again. The name burned in my throat. My jaw felt like it would tear apart. The creature lunged. I screamed, "Arcanal!" The world split. Not the walls, not the floor. Reality itself cracked open like glass, a blinding white fissure ripping vertically between me and the monster. A hand, massive, made of light and shadow folded into one, emerged from the fissure. Arcanal. Not a voice, not a presence, a being. He stepped through the fissure, towering, faceless, radiating a pressure so intense that the air bent around him. The creature recoiled, shrieking, "You cannot take what is mine." Arcanal replied, "He was never yours. You merely found him first." The creature lunged. Arcanal caught it by the skull like it weighed nothing. Its limbs thrashed wildly, scraping the ceiling, tearing chunks of plaster from the walls. Arcanal looked down at me. "You opened the first door. You will close the last." A small, shimmering point of light formed in front of me. A pinpoint. A seed. I understood instantly. I pressed my hand to it. It bloomed into a sphere of blinding white. Behind me the creature shrieked, Arcanal's grip tightening as he forced it onto its knees. "Now," Arcanal commanded. I pushed the sphere into the fissure. The crack sealed shut in a wave of white fire. The creature, half inside, half out, was sliced in two. Its body evaporated into dust. Its scream cut off like a snuffed flame. Silence. When the light faded, I stood alone. The door was gone. The fissure was gone. The creature was gone. Only Arcanal's final whisper remained, drifting like a fading echo. "You chose correctly. One day you will open another door. Be ready." Then even he vanished, leaving me in a room with no cracks, no whispers, no second heartbeat, just the quiet. But sometimes, when the night is very still, I feel a pulse beneath my ribs, not a second heartbeat, just a reminder. The doors are never truly closed.